HBO boss doesn't rule out Game of Thrones Jon Snow spinoff. What if I told you that the King in the North might actually be coming back to your screen, and this time, HBO is not saying no? Yeah, you heard that right. Jon Snow, the brooding bastard who literally knows nothing but somehow saved Westeros twice, could be getting his own show, and the HBO boss just cracked the door wide open. Buckle up because winter might be coming back, and it is bringing dragons, direwolves, and a whole lot of unfinished business with it. Before we dive into this icy rabbit hole of possibilities, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button right now and smash that notification bell so you never miss when we drop the hottest Game of Thrones news. Trust me, you will want to be first in line when more Jon Snow updates roll in. So here's the deal. Casey Bloys, the chief content officer at HBO and basically the guy who decides what lives and dies in the world of premium television, recently sat down for an interview, and when asked about the Jon Snow spinoff that has been in development limbo for what feels like an eternity, he did not shut it down. In fact, he left the door so wide open you could ride a dragon through it. Now, for those of you living under a rock in the ruins of Hardhome, let me catch you up real quick. Back in the summer of 2022, news broke that Kit Harington, our beloved Jon Snow himself, was attached to a sequel series that would follow his character after the events of the Game of Thrones finale. You know, that finale that left half the fandom screaming into their wine goblets and the other half pretending they were fine while quietly weeping into their House Stark merchandise. The spin-off was reportedly going to explore what happened after Jon was exiled beyond the Wall with the Free Folk, living out his days with Ghost, Tormund, and presumably a whole lot of existential guilt about stabbing his aunt/lover. Because if there is one thing Jon Snow does better than swinging a sword, it is brooding about his life choices. But then the project went silent. Radio silence. Quieter than the Night King at a comedy show. And fans started to wonder if HBO had given up on the idea altogether. After all, we have seen plenty of Game of Thrones spin-off projects announced and then quietly abandoned faster than Theon Greyjoy abandons his sense of loyalty. But here is where it gets interesting. Casey Bloys, in true HBO executive fashion, refused to kill the dream. When pressed about the Jon Snow series, he essentially said that just because a project is not actively in production does not mean it is dead. He pointed out that HBO has multiple Game of Thrones projects in various stages of development, and some take longer than others to find the right story. Translation? They're not giving up on Jon Snow, but they're also not rushing to put out something that feels forced or half-baked. And honestly, after what happened with the final season of Game of Thrones, can you blame them for wanting to get it right this time? Let me paint you a picture of what this could mean. Imagine a series that follows Jon Snow as he ventures deeper into the true North, discovering ancient secrets about the White Walkers that even the three-eyed Raven did not know about. Picture him encountering new threats, mysterious magic, and maybe even remnants of the Children of the Forest. Think about the political intrigue he could stumble into if there are other tribes beyond the Free Folk, or if there is a power vacuum in the lands beyond the Wall now that the Night King is gone. The storytelling possibilities are absolutely endless, and Kit Harington himself has said he would only return if the story was worth telling. This is not a cash grab for him. He loved playing Jon Snow, but he also knows that character deserves a proper continuation, not just a nostalgia-fueled reunion tour. Now let's talk about why HBO is being so careful with this. The original Game of Thrones was a cultural phenomenon. It was the kind of show that had your grandmother, your boss, and your barista all theorizing about who would end up on the Iron Throne. But that final season? Woof. It divided the fanbase harder than the Stark family after Ned lost his head. Some people loved it, some people started petitions to remake it, and HBO learned a very valuable lesson about rushing to the finish line. So, when it comes to a Jon Snow spinoff, they cannot afford to mess it up. They need the right writers, the right story, and most importantly, they need Kit Harington to be fully on board and passionate about the project. Because let me tell you, nobody wants to watch a show where the lead actor looks like he would rather be literally anywhere else. We have all seen those performances before, and they are about as enjoyable as watching Joffrey at a wedding. Speaking of Game of Thrones spin-offs, let's not forget that HBO is already cooking up a feast of content set in Westeros. We have got House of the Dragon, which just wrapped its second season and proved that yes, dragons and Targaryens are still a winning combination. We have got a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms coming soon, which will take us into the world of Dunk and Egg. And there are reportedly several other projects in development, including one about Aegon's conquest that would show us how the Targaryens originally took over Westeros with their 3 dragons. So HBO is not shy about expanding this universe. They're building a Game of Thrones empire faster than Littlefinger climbs the social ladder. But here's the thing that makes the Jon Snow series so compelling compared to all these other projects. Jon Snow is the character that millions of fans grew attached to over 8 seasons. We watched him grow from a bastard with a chip on his shoulder to the king in the north to the man who literally saved humanity from an undead apocalypse. His story ended on such an ambiguous note that fans have been debating what happens next since the credits rolled. Does he eventually find peace beyond the wall? Does he discover something that pulls him back into the Game of Thrones? Does he ever find out that Bran knew about everything the whole time and just let it all play out because he is a creepy omniscient tree wizard? We need answers, people. And let us be real for a second. Kit Harington can act. The man proved over and over again that he could carry emotional weight, handle complex moral dilemmas, and make you believe that this character was torn between duty and desire. A Jon Snow series would not just be fan service. It could be genuinely compelling television, if done right. Imagine the character studies they could do, with Jon finally being free from the politics of the Seven Kingdoms, but still haunted by everything that happened. Imagine him forming new relationships, building a new life, and maybe, just maybe, finding actual happiness for once in his cursed existence. The fact that Casey Bloys is keeping this door open tells us everything we need to know. HBO wants this to happen. They're just waiting for all the pieces to fall into place. And honestly, in an era where streaming services. So what do you think? Do you want to see Jon Snow return for his own series, or should his story remain a mystery beyond the wall? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let us know what you would want to see in a Jon Snow spinoff. Would you want more White Walker lore? Political intrigue? Or just Jon Snow and Ghost having wholesome adventures in the snow? Whatever it is, we want to hear from you. Thanks for watching.